please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Welcome everyone to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we are going to start with the Boy Scouts of America, who have recently announced a change that will be coming into effect in February 2025. Simply, the name Boy Scouts of America is going to change to Scouting America. Founded 114 years ago, this Texas-based organization has been involved in a number of claims of the S.ABUSE variety, along with bankruptcy. The Chief Executive Officer, Roger Krone, Krone, said it sends this really strong message to everyone in America that they can come to this program, they can bring their authentic self, they can be who they are, and they will be welcomed here. Many people knew this change was coming anyway, because with no level of irony, guys are not allowed to have their own personal space. I say with no level of irony because you now have women's sports, where some are saying you can't have those who are male to female trans involved in a sport because they're men. The biological aspect would indicate male, it gets quite grey. Apparently no one is allowed to have that personal space that is biological sex based. So why are they changing the name? Krone told the Associated Press that they wanted a name going forward that made clear that all children and teens are welcome, and that the name change, along with the whole rebrand structure, is basically a way of trying to drum up additional interest because of historically low membership numbers. During the pandemic, they lost vast numbers of members because they were unable to participate. The high point over the past decade was 2018 when there were more than 2 million members. Currently, there are just over 1 million. This includes 176,000 girls and teens. Membership for this establishment peaked in 1972 when they had over 5 million. Times change, of course. These kind of institutions do start to rise, plateau, fall. How they choose to rebuild, apparently in this instance, is to remove the aspect of what it means to be Boy Scouts of America and simply replace it with children, just everyone, all y'all, because there are lots of different types of groupings now, and you'd want to use your devout base and your rather substantial reputation to still maintain a semblance of relevancy. Over the years, the Boy Scouts of America have changed a number of things. For example, 2013 it allowed gay members that ended the blanket ban on gay adult leaders in 2015. In 2017, it announced that girls would be accepted as Cub Scouts. This then led to 2 years later the flagship Boy Scout program being renamed Scouts BSA. In 2020, it sought bankruptcy protection because it had been named in about 275 lawsuits and told insurers it was aware of another 1,400 claims. Last year, a federal judge upheld the $2.4 billion bankruptcy plan, allowing the organization to keep operating while compensating more than 80,000 men who filed claims they were harmed as children in a sexual manner and teen scouts. When you have all those accusations against you, rebranding can be seen as a smart idea because you are now seen as either keeping up with the times or as something new. Unfortunately for them, the Boy Scouts of America, or Scouting America, which, considering the 1,400 claims and 80,000 people owed compensation, seems inappropriate as a replacement name, doesn't it now? So while it can be argued by some to be a chance to tell a new story, I'm not as convinced. In the online space, there are a lot of people whose voices simply say this is another excuse to continue to erode at what spaces there are for boys to learn and grow as boys, where girls already had their own space, but their companies also got tanked. Insert obligatory, but I still buy the cookies. And as we all know, the Girl Scouts of America do oh so well these days. Over the years, they've also suffered problems. Financial, mostly. Yes, I certainly remember covering that over the years. So before we get to the next subject, I'm going to insert an honourable mention, another short subject that isn't really worthy of longer coverage. I have, though, covered it a number of times on this channel, in fact within this series, concerning P&O ferries, who fired all their staff to then obey maritime laws so they could in turn reduce the minimum wage of all their employees down to a level that could not be livable by anyone living in the United Kingdom. The boss of P&O Ferries has admitted his company pay on board crew just £4.87 an hour, and that he himself, who earns over $500,000 a year, could not live on such a wage. £4.87, just to give it context, is marginally more, not by much, to what I was earning as a 16-year-old working for a co-op in Reigate back in 2002. We are 22 years removed, and the minimum wage now for under 18s is £6.40, a massive discrepancy, especially if you're over 21 when it's £11.44. Of course you couldn't live on it, you sausage, nor can the people in this country. You, Chief Executive Peter Hebblethwaite, need to live on that wage and lead by damn example instead of bleeding what salary you should have paid your staff into your own bank account, you fat feckless fool. Some of you people, you lovely internet folk, might well be what is commonly considered a video game player. This is where we're going next, where we now have to talk about Helldivers 2, a game I know sod all about. It has over 603,289 Steam reviews. Recently there was an update to Helldivers 2 for PC players. This update required all Steam players to connect to an active PlayStation Network account to access the Sony published game. On the face of it, that makes sod all sense. As you've already signed into your Steam account, why do you now need to do that? But I have a similar problem with Ubisoft, where you have to, when you play an Assassin's Creed game for example, have the Uplay account doodah, a GUI thing, open, and you have to log into that as well if you have an Assassin's Creed game on there, on Steam that is. It is quite frustrating. Sony believes that the account linking is essential to protect players and uphold the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studio games. And the fact that linking was initially optional due to technical issues at launch, this sudden change has led to a fair amount of outrage in the form of review bombing. One of the reasons that people are quite angry about this is because PSN is only available in about 70 countries out of the 190 recognised countries around the world, compared to Steam, which is available to just about anywhere with internet access. Places without PSN access include most of Africa, excluding South Africa, some European countries, and even some EU member states like Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. This means that players in those places who have been playing it for months won't have access to their purchase following the June 4th, 2024 deadline for existing players, since they can't legitimately create a PSN account to then connect it. I don't know if this would apply to a VPN, but still, the extra ball ache required seems a bit unnecessary. Over the last 30 days, the average amount of players playing Helldivers 2 was 117,837, peaking at 253,011. These are really good numbers, by the way. When the update was announced, it received over 14,000 negative reviews. The number then ballooned to over 200,000 in 2 days, which is an impressive feat for any company, something you certainly want to consider an achievement unlocked moment situation type deal. For the most part, I've never had an issue with Sony. I tried my best to ignore the fact that their homepage on the PlayStations are an absolute farce, now anyway, and just focus on the fact that actually they are quite useful. I still take issue with the digital problem that many have, where you have a digital account, lose your account, you lose everything, whereas if you have physical copies you can still then play it and make a new account if you have to make a new account. But I also take issue with the fact that with a lot of games, if you buy physical copies, you have to download phenomenal updates as well, putting you in a bind and trying to encourage you to go down the digital route. This one can add to this, I guess, because this is beyond dumb. Again, Ubisoft do it with Uplay, and I don't like that either. I think it's some of the dumbest crap imaginable. You can try and argue safety and security, but when I'm constantly having to use admin mode to use Uplay that requires 3 sets of uploads or updates or bullshit nonsense GUI problems because it's crap, I'm inclined to not use those games on the PC and instead focus on handheld or on a other console. There is an update to this story, and of course I should include it. Sony have backtracked on Helldivers 2's mandatory PSN account linking requirements, which led to the game being delisted from Steam in 177 countries. Here's an image of the review bombing, by the way. Yes, this is an impressive feat. It wasn't just Helldivers 2 that received flack, as the original Helldivers also got caught in the crossfire, a move which deeply saddened Arrowhead's CEO Johan. It's also been revealed that Helldivers 2 developers had no final say in the PSN requirements. There are currently 248,000 mostly negative reviews on the Helldivers 2 Steam page, aimed at this controversy. Now that this community has successfully managed to restore democracy to Super Earth, the game's community is urging players to clean up the store page. My view is the following. Don't bother. No. Don't do that. Don't erase an important and vital part of history where they need to learn that they cannot simply dictate terms to gamers. There is a fine balance, and they need to be reminded of that, and this must remain. Learn your lesson, but don't try and erase it, because then we know you'll try and do it again, basically. And I fully understand and appreciate giving Arrowhead and Sony another chance. I fully do, even with a game I know nothing about. But I'm a dickhead, and I'm going to stand by what I've already said. Thus is written, thus is law. On that note, honorable mention time. Let's go to Democrat Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, whatever, who said the following.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges.
Now, I know context is important, but let's just be a pedantic dickhead for a moment and say the following. If there are issues like this in areas of your state, districts, like the Bronx, maybe some in Queens as well if you like, that sounds an awful lot like a you problem as the governor of that state for failing to do your job to ensure the education levels are raised. You assumed office in 2021. You've been there for a few years. If you've not managed to impact change in an education setting, then maybe you should focus on the education setting, whilst also perhaps dealing with the other issues your state has. And to those who are interested, Kathy here won the election by a very close margin. A Republican almost became governor of the state. Not surprising for the person who was once the lieutenant governor for Andrew Cuomo. To the final subject, we go to PopCrave on Twitter. Tiffany Haddix says she created a fake social media account to go after her critics by threatening to reveal personal details. Quote, I've learned how to find people's information, like I pull up the credit report, police records. You can do that for $1.99. Sometimes I get so mad that I'll get their phone number and I'll just call them. They'll be shocked that I called. They'll be like, I can't believe you even saw that. Now we have on the internet rules, unwritten rules I might add. Tiffany Haddix, the comedian, doesn't understand that. But this is quite amusing for Tiffany Haddix, the comedian, to not be able to handle a bit of bants on social media. So Tiffany Haddix, the comedian, can't deal with a heckler, essentially. I had to look up who she was, because I didn't actually know who she was. But she's been in a number of movies, voice acting and stuff like that. Congratulations to her. While scrolling through her highly respected and totally credible source, Wikipedia page, it did point out she dabbled in Scientology, which told me her credentials as a comedian were as legit as Tom Cruise being able to take a joke. Tiffany Haddix's justification was actually a continuation of the quote. On the internet, people think they can just say whatever and you are not going to say anything. I try my best not to, but I'm a human being. What she means to say is, I can't handle any kind of flack at all. I can't handle it. How on earth have you ever handled being on a stage? In an article by MSNBC, again as credible as Wikipedia, they continue after the full quote by saying, on the one hand, I can't necessarily say I blame Haddix for wanting to fight back against the nastiness people can send her way, but I also can't say that her methods sit well with me. Her digital vigilantism is an extremely unsettling reminder of how much personal information we all have floating out there on the internet. Moreover, it highlights what a determined person with cash to spare can dig up, especially if their motives are more nefarious than Haddix's. I would point out, this paragraph has a number of errors. Personal information we all have floating on the internet is not the key takeaway point from digital vigilantism. That is not the key point. And people with more cash to spare, I'll be honest, some of the best, let's say, trolls on the internet who can accomplish more than what she has, don't have any money at all. They're typically called basement-dwelling incels. If you are using your money to go through the third-party route to obtain personal information through all that data that is on a regular basis via data brokers bought and sold, like stonks, chances are you're a shitty individual if your intention is to use it to then go and find the people who've said something nasty to you. It's the sodding internet. All you have to do is put your phone, tablet, computer down and walk away. That's all you have to do. The fact you engage just shows how far you're willing to go because of an obsessive trait you possess that makes it so you are unable to handle anything coming your direction. Any other person would use it as a comedian, like you claim to be, to instead make material out of it. Jimmy Carr did that because the man can take abuse and he can give it back. If you haven't seen any of his Jimmy Carr handles hecklers videos compilations, seriously, the guy's got skills. The idea of digital vigilantism isn't really applicable in this case because that's not what she's doing. She's trying to outplay those that she thinks are power playing her. Digital vigilantism encompasses a number of different things. For example, those that hunt those who like children. Different kind, isn't it? The moment you take this all into the real world is the moment you decide where the line should be. That's not where the line is though. It doesn't move because you want it to move, and it's a dangerous path to tread. One that will, when it backfires on you, and I say when because it will cost you. You, Tiffany Haddix, apparently have quite a career, something which you should be incredibly proud of course. I would highly recommend you focus on things you love doing, helping those in the foster care system, raising awareness for countries that you come from. Independent nations, I can't be bothered to go and find the name again, it's split off from Ethiopia, I believe. And of course, talking about things like your heritage, which mean a lot to you. This is all vitally important stuff, and your acting career. If you give the internet too much, the internet will eat you up in a heartbeat. Consider that sound advice.